Right. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it. Four games down. I can't believe it. We are at the traditional quarter mark of the NFL season. Yes, I know there's 17 games now, so the math doesn't quite work out on that. But traditionally, 4 weeks in is the quarter mark, and it's crazy that much of the regular season has already gone by. Precious time. You got to value every second of the NFL season. Welcome back to another episode of Booth Review. As always, I'm your host, Devin Primrose, joined by that Sultan of Spice, Mr. Peter Strauss. What's going on, man?
Not much. I am feeling better. We're a day late because I was feeling like what do they say? What do they call Tom Brady? We have a soundbite for that, right? That's what I felt like yesterday.
We do. We have
I said that Tom Brady is still a doo-doo head.
He is still a doo-doo head.
Yeah,
confirmed.
That's how I felt yesterday. So, but better now. Good to be here to talk about. Feel like I've been fighting for, maybe not in our Discord. I tried not to bring it up in our Discord, but in other chats about the Chiefs game, I feel like I've been fighting for my life. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, we don't let you talk about Chiefs games in our Discord.
I couldn't argue with that many people at once. Like I had other friends already texting me about it, and I was having to defend myself there. I'm like, I'm not doing this in two chats. So I figured people on our Discord listen to this podcast, so I'll give my 2 cents here when we get to the Chiefs eventually.
I don't blame you, but hey, somehow I don't know how this has happened, and I hate the Chiefs for allowing this to happen, but Zach Wilson has officially been the only quarterback to outplay Patrick Mahomes in a matchup against him, stat-wise, which is just ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I mean, some things clicked together for the Jets this week, and I'm also convinced that sometimes the Chiefs just, when they get ahead by a lot, they either stay ahead and make the blowout even larger, or they just start playing around and make a bunch of mistakes, and then it just steamrolls. And that's kind of what happened.
I get all of that, but this is a man that has faced the likes of Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady. Like, these are top-tier level quarterbacks, and he's outplayed all of them every single time that he's played against them. And Zach Wilson is not the guy to have outplayed Patrick Mahomes. He ain't the one.
There's other factors. I mean, the Jets, despite what Blake tried to tell me in the Discord last week, the Jets do have a great defense. They just chose this week to come alive for some reason, like a quarter in, decided to come alive.
Yeah.
There might have been some distractions with, who was in the crowd. We had another Taylor Swift game.
I'm so sick of this. Okay. Part of me loves it for the NFL because you're bringing in literally a whole new audience of people, which hopefully, when Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce inevitably break up, even official, who knows what they are right now, but when they inevitably break up and Taylor Swift writes her album about him, which is going to happen, hopefully all of those Swiftie fans that have started watching football continue watching football, because I'm all about the sport growing. But my God, is it annoying to make a spectacle out of every single dang Chiefs game. It's awful. I hate it.
Well, first of all, it's not going to be every single Chiefs game. It was just 2 in a row because
it's going to be every single one.
It's not. She goes back on tour like next week.
She's still gonna find a way.
She's out on tour for the rest of football season.
Good. Good.
But was it a little much? Sure. Like football,
Was it a
it was
little
hold on,
much?
hold on. It was a great point because the Kelseys, obviously they talked about it on their podcast, and Jason Kelsey came up with a great point where like the NBA has it down. No matter how big the star is, they take the star, they put him in the front row of the game, they show him off once or twice and get a clip of them reacting, and that's it. The NFL is like, even though they have celebrities at games, sometimes like Taylor Swift is just a whole different monster when it comes to fame.
Well, part of it is also that there's so much downtime in an NFL game.
Yeah.
Between every play, there's a 40-second play clock, which, sometimes that's run all the way down. Sometimes it's run to 20 seconds. Sometimes it's run to 10 seconds. But there's at least a maximum of 40 seconds that can be between every single play. You don't have that in basketball. Basketball is just fast-paced the entire time, back and forth from one end of the court to the other. Like, it's nonstop action, at least throughout the quarter. But there's so much downtime in the NFL. You have more time to fill on air, which I get the NFL and the production teams, they're going to do what they're going to do because it's ratings. That's what it's all about. And somehow this was one of the most watched games in Sunday Night Football. But gosh, it's a spectacle that I don't like.
I'm not as like it didn't ruin the game for me with how much he's on screen. The thing that ruins it more is just all the puns that they're all the same puns just rotated through all of the sportscasters. Not even during the game, just like throughout the entire week, we have to listen. Oh, look, he found a blank space in the end zone. Like, we get it. Okay, we understand. They're just, I mean, that particular her getting that much screen time because there is so much downtime in football. Yeah. It doesn't ruin the watching experience for me. Like, I think it's a little bit of an overreaction to say that she's ruining football, which some people have said. I know that's not what you said.
Yeah,
but some people have said.
I'm not going that far, but it's a lot. I just want to watch a game, man. I don't need to see that someone spectacular is there.
What was crazy to me, and I texted this to a few people, Taylor Swift is so famous, they didn't even mention on the broadcast who else was in the box with her. Do you know who else was in the box with her?
I know Hugh Jackman,
Ryan
Reynolds, Blake
Lively, and Sophie Turner.
Yeah.
Were all in the press box with her, and they didn't get mentioned once on the broadcast.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, enough talk about old Tay-Tray, and let's get on to the best of the booth for the weekend. Who you got, man?
I am going with a man who, after the obviously it's NFL, after the first game of the week and even kind of preseason, I was not as high on as we've been in the past.
Yeah.
I thought their window was closing for anything great to happen. We were shocked that they were favored to win this game and then came out and just dominated a team who scored 70 points last week. I am talking about Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills putting up 48 against the Miami Dolphins. Josh Allen in particular, 21 of 25, which is 84% completion percentage, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no picks. Just having a field day with his boy Stephon Diggs, who had 6 catches for 120 yards and 3 of those touchdowns. That duo, I mean, we'll see how it goes as the season continues on. I know Josh Allen has weird problem games against teams that aren't really that good.
Yeah.
But I think they proved this week that, hey, the AFC East is still theirs to lose. So
yeah.
Yeah,
and we'll see what happens when Josh Allen does have one of those games again, because it does seem like Stephon Diggs is, for as good of a receiver as he is, which he's one of the best in the NFL, he's a little short-tempered when it comes to poor quarterback play. And I think that has caused a lot of the issues that he's had between him and the team. What happens as the season progresses, who knows? But hopefully we get good Josh Allen for the rest of the year.
Yeah, there's not a ton. He had a perfect passer rating, I believe, 158.3 this game.
I mean, deservedly so.
And I mean, even the last couple games before that, like I know they played New England and they played Washington, so like they weren't as tough of games, but since those 3 picks that he threw week 1, I think he's only had one more interception since then. So
sounds right.
Getting cleaner with the football as well.
Yeah.
Scoring wise, are currently the most dominant team in the AFC. So
yeah, this is kind of my big concern with this Dolphins team. I really love what they're doing on offense. I think the offense is magical, but the defense leaves a lot to be desired and can be exposed with playing the top tier elite offenses. So again, that's something to watch as the season progresses. Hopefully the defense improves and they're able to at least put up a fight against these big dogs in the AFC. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think Vic Fangio will figure it out with this defense, and they
Hopefully.
still have not had Jalen Ramsey yet.
True.
Play. So, and I think also I thought they had Eli Apple, but it doesn't look like he played this week. Not that I think Eli Apple is a difference maker, but a bunch of other people like him. So,
well, hey, speaking of defensive difference makers, I went with defense for my best of the booth, which I rarely do. Now, I want to give an honorable mention to this guy, which I did not pick, but Khalil Mack had 6 sacks on Sunday for the Chargers, which I get it. The Raiders were playing a rookie quarterback, but dang, 6 sacks in the game is ridiculous. So shout out to him for that. But I went with another defensive playmaker for the Seattle Seahawks, their rookie first-round pick. He was the 5th overall pick. And that's, of course, Devin Witherspoon, cornerback for them. He had 7 tackles, 2 of those tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, and a 97-yard pick six in that game against the Giants on Monday night. Man, that Giants team looked rough. The Seattle defense was able to do basically anything they wanted. I think there was 11 total sacks for the Seattle defense, which is just mind-blowingly ridiculous. That offensive line couldn't stop anything. They were able to get back there at Danny Dimes all night. Just an awful showing for New York and a great showing for a Seattle team that continues to impress me.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch like the whole game. I kind of watched bits and pieces, but it seemed like every time I looked at the game, there was Daniel Jones was getting tackled, and it's a shame because I feel like there are pieces of that team that's really good, but that offensive line is maybe the worst offensive line I've ever seen outside of Joe Burrow's like first and second year.
Yeah.
Or Joe Burrow's offensive line now is also bad. But I mean, it almost seems like don't even have him out there. Just let Danny Dimes and Saquon, when he comes back and is healthy, just try to juke him out and hope for the best because that's what they're going to be doing anyway. Yeah, it's a really disappointing performance. I thought it was a winnable game for the Giants, especially since Geno Smith was hurt for a little bit and Drew Lock came out for a couple plays and had and they let Drew Lock throw a bomb. So
yeah, I wonder how much of the Giants' woes this season go back to Brian Dable, and I thought he did a decent job with them last year. I don't think he deserved Coach of the Year for them last year, but maybe I was right. And this year he's showing his true colors. I think you've got to start to wonder that at some point with that team continuing to struggle week after week.
Yeah, and I mean the last couple weeks they haven't had Saquon, who is the best player on their team. So, but still, I think against the Seahawks defense, who hasn't been that great so far this year, that they should have been able. It seemed like too, like whenever New York started to move the ball, like a sack would happen. Like every drive, like they would get like 2 or 3 first downs, and then get a sack or a huge tackle for a loss or something like that, and their momentum just got killed every time they had the ball for more than 2 minutes. So, yeah, shout out to the Seattle defense for taking advantage of that offensive line. They probably should have called the police on you because that's a lot. Going back to your honorable mention, real quick, because my honorable mention for under review is Brandon Staley, because man, did he get bailed out at the end of that game for doing a failed tush push, which is a very controversial play right now, but a lot of teams tried it this week and it did not work for anyone. The Giants tried it, the Chargers tried it, I believe the Raiders tried it, a bunch of teams tried it, and nobody succeeded.
It's that 600-pound squat.
It's the talent of the Eagles. You have the best center in football, and you have one of the strongest quarterbacks in football.
I mean, listen, no disrespect to Justin Herbert, but I don't think he's, squatting 600 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big dude, but it's like it's not in his legs.
Same with Danny Dimes.
It's not
Danny
in their
Dimes
legs.
definitely ain't squatting 600 pounds.
Justin Herbert's a big, strong guy, but he be skipping leg day. But the Raiders with their backup quarterback, another Hunter Renfrow lookalike for some reason, almost came back and had a game-winning drive on that game and ended up throwing an interception at the end, but bailed out with a missed tush push on 4th down when they should have just kicked it. They should have just kicked it away.
Yeah.
But speaking of head coaches who need to be fired immediately, making bonehead 4th down decisions, my under review, and typically for under review, it goes to people that we expect to do better, right? I just could not go through this week without talking about Matt Eberflus for the Chicago Bears. Like, I understand. The Bears are bad. They're probably the worst team in football, although after this week, maybe the Giants are coming for that title. I don't know. But Justin Fields had the best game of his career. It was the first.
Yeah.
It was his first ever 300-yard game. He was 28 of 35. I don't know what the completion percentage on that is, but hold on. This is the math podcast. I can do the math. They're both divisible by 7.
Yeah, that's 4 out of 5.
Yeah,
It's
4 out of
80%.
5. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Yeah. 80% completion percentage for 335 yards, 4 touchdowns, and the 1 pick that he got at the very end.
Yeah.
But they had a 21-0 lead, I believe. And then Denver came back, and the game was tied. And then Chicago had a choice. They could either go for it and try to burn more clock. They could kick the field goal, take the points, and make Denver, who I think was more desperate for the win,
Yes.
make them come back down the field to tie it and then go to overtime. Or if they get a touchdown, they win. Or you can those were the only 2 choices, actually. But they decided to go for it, and they hand it off to Khalil Herbert, who doesn't make it.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where Justin Fields is having the game of his career. You can kick the ball, take the points, and if the Broncos come back and score it, it's like, well, at least Justin Fields showed promise. At least Justin Fields gets some confidence and can maybe be the player that a lot of people thought he was going to be this year.
Yeah.
Because a confidence boost like that can do a lot. We see it with Tua, who was not a good quarterback until he had some confidence with Mike McDaniel. But instead, you do that, Denver's able to come down and kick a field goal, and now Justin Fields has to come back out and make a game-winning drive and makes one final mistake in the 4th quarter, and there goes all that confidence. There it all goes. And so you've just set yourself up for failure for the rest of the year, and I hope of all the head coaches that you get fired first. Matt Eberflus, you dang fool.
Well, I mean, I feel like if there is any coach that is sitting on the hottest seat, it is probably him. Only because the Chargers have seemingly righted the ship somewhat. At least they're getting wins.
They're getting wins. Staley's getting bailed out big time.
Yeah. But I think that when you combine the expectations that so many people had for that team going into the season, between the media, the fans, and even within that own organization, when you combine all of those expectations with the reality of what you've seen through 4 games with that team, where it's basically the same old Chicago Bears that have no defense and seemingly with more weapons around Justin Fields, a worse offense for the most part outside of Sunday. I think that you have to at least start having the conversation of whether or not this is the guy that's going to get it done for you. I don't think he is. I also think that people way overhyped that team. I didn't buy into it. I think that people got too excited by what they saw from a small sample size of Justin Fields, and by small sample size I mean down the stretch last season. Got too excited by that, which is fine. It's a guy that's in his second year making some progression. You want to see that continue in year 3, but completely forgot about how absolute dog crap their defense is and how little they did to improve it. So I think there's problems all over that team, and Matt Eberflus isn't the only problem, but he is probably the biggest one. So, yeah, I'm with you that he needs to go.
Yeah. Like, this was, I think the Chicago Bears have had winnable situations, and obviously Justin Fields is a part of that. Like, he has missed open receivers, or he has held on to the ball too long. Like, obviously he's still making
Well, it's a bad
mistakes.
game plan they've had for him.
Yeah.
Like, whatever they've tried to do offensively with Justin Fields is not what you should be doing with Justin Fields.
I mean, even this game, he only had 4 carries for 25 yards. This was
Yeah.
just the game where he happened to figure out, like, how to throw the ball, or just how they figured out that Denver's defense is
that's
the
what it
opposite
is.
of
He
what
was
it was last year.
facing maybe the worst defense in football in Denver's. So, which is tough to do when Chicago has an awful defense as well. But I think that's more so what it is he happened to be facing a very bad defense. And so that leads to a good game. And I don't want to discredit him too much because Justin Fields is talented. I know that I've been against him being a starting NFL quarterback for 3 seasons, and I still am against that because when you watch him as a quarterback, as a passing quarterback, that's what quarterback's job is to do. He is not great at it. And he's not at the level of an NFL quarterback. But if you were to design an offense that allowed him to be more mobile, to have more designed quarterback carries, he could be successful. And they're not doing that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at success that, like, Anthony Richardson's already having with Shane Steichen, who knows how to run a mobile quarterback offense. Or you
Yes,
look at
if
the
there was
Eagles
if
with
there was
Jalen
a single
Hurts.
coach out there that could do it, it's Shane Steichen, absolutely.
But unfortunately, I think Matt Eberflus should be fired, and maybe they should just go ahead and trade Justin Fields and just hope that they can get either what they should do. And I think I said this in the Discord. What they should do is trade their first overall pick to somebody who wants Caleb Williams. Take Carolina Panthers pick because they have Carolina Panthers pick, which will probably be the second overall pick. Use that to take Shadir Sanders, and then you also hire Coach Prime. And Coach Prime just comes in and cleans house and rebuilds the whole organization.
The problem is I don't think Deion Sanders. I don't want to say that he won't be able to coach in the NFL. His coaching style won't translate well over to the NFL. I will say that because so much of his coaching style is mentoring these kids that are transitioning from kid to adult, and that style doesn't work in the NFL because you're going from a place of mentorship leadership to equality leadership, if that makes sense. Like these are now business partners, employees however you want to look at it, instead of like I'm your mentor. And what he's doing for Colorado and what he did at Jackson State is amazing and absolutely needed in college. And I think it's set up to be incredibly successful in college. I don't think it'll translate over to the NFL that well. And that's not to say that he can't translate. I think that he could. But the way that he's doing it now wouldn't work in the NFL. I don't think. We'll see.
It's just fun to think about.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is if you do draft Shedeur Sanders, you're going to kind of be... I don't think he's as mobile as Justin Fields, but he does have some mobility. And I don't know. I think you're still going to be in a spot where you've got to kind of figure out how to change up your offense a little bit. Instead of being real old school.
If they can settle for a quarterback that's not Caleb Williams, which there's still, even besides Shedeur Sanders,
there's plenty out there. There's Bo Nix. There's Penix Jr. from Washington. There's Drake May from North Carolina. There's so many guys out there.
You can trade that first overall pick to somebody who desperately wants Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
And then, use those draft picks to build, the rest of your team.
Yeah. It's
And
possible.
That's the only thing that can save Chicago, but
It's possible.
For right now, they're the same team that they always were, and I'm sad by it. I wanted them, I wanted to root for them.
Listen, right now it's looking like I'm not wearing a Justin Fields jersey next year.
Oh, well, only one quarter of the season is done, like you said.
I mean, there is still 13 games left to be played.
Packers are what, 2-2? So I mean, not
Speaking-
realistically that far ahead.
Speaking of the Packers, my under review this week is the Packers game plan. Because whatever it was, it did not work. Defensively, I've had my qualms with Joe Barry for at least the last year or two. Because his defense, while it is stacked with potential stars, they cannot stop the run. They've never been able to stop the run. It's the same problem they have every single flipping year. All you've got to do is just go out there and rush 50 times a game against them because they're not going to be able to stop you. And that's what Detroit did. I don't think they rushed exactly 50 times, but they rushed 43 times.
Yeah, I was going to say
43 times for 211 yards. What is this? Is this 1990s football over here? What are we playing? Like, David Montgomery went off for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns, which, great. Like, he's a very good running back. He's tough to stop, whatever. But you've got to just slow him down. Like, just force Jared Goff's hand a little bit, which even then, Jared Goff was still beating them through the air. The defense couldn't stop anything. Whatever game plan they had set up did not work. Now, go over to the offensive side of the ball where it was an atrocity for the first half. It was awful. I don't know what they're doing with Jordan Love, but this is back-to-back games where he's looked like a completely different quarterback in the second half versus the first. If you go look at the second half, Jordan Love, dude looks like a great might be an overstatement, but a good NFL quarterback. You look at him in the first half, he looks like he's in the wrong league. He looks like he should be playing in the XFL. But I don't know what they're doing between the first half and the second half. I don't know if Matt LaFleur is intentionally trying to script plays to see certain things from Jordan Love. If that's the case, I don't know how I feel about that because I get it, like you want to help develop this guy if he's going to be your future, and part of that is being able to see certain things and certain schemes. But the other side of it is you're also trying to win some dang ball games. You have a good enough team to compete, and whatever you're doing to start the games, again, back-to-back weeks between the Saints and this game against the Lions, they looked terrible in the first half. Now, they were able to come back and beat the Saints because the Saints are not great. The Lions, They tried to do it. The Lions are too good. So you can't get down and put yourself in a hole at halftime to these good teams and expect to be competitive. And they certainly have a team to be competitive. Now, they've been banged up. They're coming back from injury. Aaron Jones, Christian Watson slowly getting back into that offense. David Bakhtiari is probably out for the rest of the season from what I saw, which is a shame. That offensive line is a mess. But that's no excuse. C.J. Stroud had his third-string left tackle out there and basically a second-string offensive line, and he still went out there and threw for 300 yards on Sunday against T.J. Watt. So it's not an excuse. Again, I don't know what kind of game plan they have, but it's not working, and they need to go back to the drawing board and figure some things out.
Yeah, I know they didn't run the ball like at all.
I mean, they
And
couldn't set that up at all. That's part of it. Is anytime they tried, it went nowhere.
Yeah, because I mean, I think they had Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon a total of 10 carries each between the two of them. And then Jordan Love had 2 rushes for -2 yards, but still had a touchdown.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is weird to see him and a lot of it is too, I don't know if it's necessarily the game plan, because one thing I noticed the last 2 weeks is they get open for him in the first half, and he just overthrows players in the first half. And I don't know I don't know if they go back in the locker room and they readjust his contacts, or what they're doing back there that makes it so he has depth perception in the second half to hit those long balls. But that's something I just noticed between this game and was last week the Saints that they came back and beat.
Yeah.
The first half he's just overthrowing guys.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's just him needing to adjust throughout the game or what it is, but hopefully they figure it out. I mean, it looks like at this point still that they won't be last in the division, and they technically still have a shot to win the division, but they're not going to do it like this.
They're not going to, which is fine. I didn't expect them to win this division. I expected them to compete for a wild card, and I still do. I still think they're in probably close to being in the upper half of the NFC, but that probably speaks more to how bad the NFC is as a whole than how good they are. But I'm with you. I don't know what it is. I don't think Jordan Love is a bad quarterback, and I don't think that he's on a path to being a bad quarterback. I just think there's a lot of things that I have questions about, such as why is he starting so slow? Why is he missing receivers in the first half and then looking like an elite, accurate quarterback in the second half? I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. But maybe it's just working out kinks. Maybe it's just first year starting, getting things ironed out. I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't know either.
Do we have a legit or counterfeit this week?
Yeah, I'm keeping it simple because we are a quarter in.
Yep.
And, through 4 games, we should mostly know who all of these teams are, right?
Allegedly.
So I wanted to go through the standings and look at this kind of seeding and everything and see if these current playoff standings are legit or counterfeit.
Oh, gosh. All right.
So I'll tell you right now, starting in the AFC, all 4 division leaders are 3-1.
Makes sense.
I'm not exactly sure how the tiebreakers work, but the Chiefs are the number 1 seed. The Ravens are the number 2 seed. The Bills are the number 3 seed. And actually, no, I apologize. This isn't in the right order this way. Playoff. Thank you. No data available. Never mind. Fourth seed would be the Indianapolis Colts because they're in the AFC South. They're 2-2. Fifth seed would be the Miami Dolphins at 3-1. Sixth seed would be the Pittsburgh Steelers at 2-2. And seventh seed, surprisingly, would be the Houston Texans.
You're dang right.
Now, obviously, there's other teams tied to 2-2. You got the Browns, Jaguars, Titans, Chargers. But
Yeah,
that's
there's
just
a
how the
whole mess of
tiebreakers.
teams.
That's just how the tiebreakers worked out.
There's so many teams sitting at 2-2.
Yeah.
I don't think the Colts are legit as the division winner in the South. But I don't know who is.
It is weird that because it is to the Jaguars' division to lose, and they seem to have already potentially lost it.
Well,
I mean,
they haven't said is every team in that division 2-2.
Yes.
Yeah,
Texans,
that checks out.
Jags, Titans, and Colts. Yep, they're all 2-2.
Texans being a wild card team, I do think is legit. I'm standing by that. I said in our preseason that if everything goes right, this is a team that can compete for a wild card, and I still believe that. You look at how they've played the last 2 weeks. I think they're playing very good football right now.
I mean, C.J. Stroud, I think, is performing way better than anyone else thought.
100%.
He has not yet thrown an interception.
Yeah.
In 4 games.
Yeah.
His first 4 games.
And he's racking up yards like it's
averaging 303 yards per game.
Yeah, ridiculous. He looks like an absolute stud for them.
I think that's part of I just thought it was going to be too inexperienced for them to really make a run, but I mean sometimes rookie quarterbacks can do that.
Well,
Maybe just people aren't expecting to play a good team when they play them.
I think we also just expected the AFC as a whole to be a little bit better. And so you have teams like the Chargers that are currently sitting outside of a playoff spot that we expected to be better. Teams like possibly the Patriots that we expected to be a little bit better. Certainly the Bengals that we expected to be better. So,
the Jets that were supposed to have Aaron Rodgers.
The Jets as well. The Steelers, I don't think are a legit playoff team at this point, especially with Kenny Pickett getting injured. And honestly, Kenny Pickett hasn't looked good at all. It might be time to make a quarterback switch there too.
I don't know if it's quarterback or if it's Matt Canada.
It could be both, honestly.
I know Steelers fans are hungry for Matt Canada's blood right now.
Yeah. Well, deservedly so through 4 weeks. Yeah. I don't see too many issues there though. Like the top 3 seeds are probably going to win those divisions. And then the Dolphins being a wild card and the Texans being a wild card for sure.
Yeah, at this point with some teams having so many question marks, like the Bengals not performing with Joe Burrow being hurt.
Yeah.
I still am a believer that they should have just sat him, but now I think it's too late. It's either you sit him and your season's done or you play him and hope that 70% is enough.
Yeah, it's
but it was rough for him against the
they're in a bad spot
this week.
They're in a bad spot.
But the Jags obviously I think should be higher. The Chargers have the talent to be higher, but have those are kind of the only 2 teams that I would want to put in there that aren't in there now.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, I think it's legit. Obviously, you can kind of sort around the seeding. I know the Bills have been a little bit more dominant than the Chiefs and the Ravens, so I give the nod to them as the number 1 seed for the moment. But
I don't weirdly, even though it's only been 4 games, I don't think it's that far off. I think it's pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's very few teams that I would count completely out of playoff contention.
Yeah.
Going to the NFC, you have the 2 undefeated teams. Through tiebreakers, Philadelphia Eagles as the 1 seed, San Francisco 49ers as the 2 seed, and then in the South, the only 3-1 team in the NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers,
crazy,
as the 3rd seed at 3-1, and then Detroit Lions also 3-1 at the 4th seed. 5th seed, again, through tiebreakers, also 3-1. We have the Seattle Seahawks. 6th seed, you have the Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
And then multiple teams sitting at 2-2. The tiebreakers give it to the Atlanta Falcons.
Ooh.
But you also have the Los Angeles Rams, the Commanders, the Packers, and the Saints at 2-2.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably how it's going to be for most of the year. I think that 7th wild card is going to be pretty wide open. I could see the same thing happening again this year that happened last year, where a 9-win team gets into that that 7th wild card spot. As far as the rest of it, I'm going to say the other 6 seeds are all legit, and that includes the Buccaneers as the leading
Yeah,
team in the South.
Baker's had a resurgence in Tampa, and I don't
Yep.
think any of us thought it was going to happen
What?
because we said it when he went to Carolina. We said it when he went to the Rams, and we're like, oh, okay, no, it's not going to work. And now of all teams going to Tampa Bay with Todd Bowles
Yeah.
is somehow the team where he revitalizes his career. Like, obviously they had the one blowout with the Eagles, but I mean, the Eagles are the best team in their division, or maybe beside the 49ers
Well, you've got
in their conference.
so this is going to be controversial to say when he's played with Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr., but I think he's playing with the best wide receivers he's ever played for in his
Oh,
career.
yeah. Mike Evans
Between-
and Chris Godwin. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It's like OBJ is still good, but I don't think he was prime OBJ when he was on the Browns, and
Right.
they seem to have kind of a leadership problem with Baker on that team anyway.
Yes. And here's what I love about just the way it appears with Mike Evans versus a guy like Odell. Odell is very much a get me the ball kind of receiver. Mike Evans, I think, is way more of a listen, throw the ball wherever it's going to get us a win kind of receiver, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the guy that wants the ball, or let me rephrase that. He's not the guy that has to have the ball in his hand to win the game. Obviously, I'm sure he wants it because that's most players. But Odell's the kind of guy that has to have it, or else he's going to be upset, and he's going to let you know he's upset, and everybody on the team's going to know he's upset. And so, I think that probably meshes better with Baker's personality, because Baker's very much a flashy kind of arrogant player.
Well, I don't even think Baker necessarily has to be like the star of the show. Baker
He doesn't.
Baker will do whatever it takes to win games, and I think
Yeah.
we saw that in their. I don't remember who they played week 1, but I mean, he was running the ball, like putting his body on the line, like
Yeah.
he was taking some big hits for that.
And he's
team.
still doing that. Yeah.
And I think he's just on a team that, has an actual shot, and I think has that kind of belief in him. Like,
Listen, I've got my fingers crossed that it works out for him, because I've said this before. Good Baker is fun Baker, and fun Baker is good for the NFL. So if we continue to get that, I'm here for it. But they've looked. The one problem with all this is that Todd Bowles is going to continue to be an NFL head coach, and I don't think he's good enough to be one. But
we'll see.
Listen,
They could
I-
still blow it. The NFC South is still wide open. The Saints have a pretty easy schedule and can make it back in easily. The Falcons have a really good defense and have good weapons, including Bijan Robinson, who can probably carry a whole game on his back if he needs to.
So here's the catch-22 of the Buccaneer situation is, again, I don't think that Todd Bowles is good enough to be an NFL head coach, but I want to see a Baker renaissance, more or less, and in order to have that and have it continue to be successful, you can't let Todd Bowles go, because then you're in the same coach carousel that Baker's been in his entire career that's caused him so many issues. So if Todd Bowles is the guy for Baker, then I guess I just got to live with it. He's got to be the guy at Tampa Bay.
I mean,
So
whatever works, because I mean, what's weird is my favorite thing to always talk about with Baker is how, like, Kevin Stefanski came in to, like, quote, fix Baker Mayfield,
right.
and then they went and they got their only playoff win in the last however many years.
Yeah.
You know who wasn't at that one playoff win? Kevin Stefanski, because he had COVID, so he wasn't at the actual game when they got that playoff win. So I mean, I think Baker. I mean, obviously he had problems in Carolina, but he also had I don't even remember his name now. That one guy at head coach that got fired last year.
I don't remember his name either. Well, Matt Rule.
Matt Rule. But he also had Matt Rule there. and then he had some success on the Rams, but he wasn't there the full season. So
Right.
maybe he's just finally found a guy that clicks with him, or like we were talking about with Tua. Like obviously, I don't think it'll be that big of a jump, but just has a guy that has confidence in him, and maybe that's all
Yep.
it takes, and has a team that believes in him too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's possible. All right. Well, let's put week 4 in the rear view and turn our attention to week 5. And hey, man, let's get picky with it.
Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it.
I don't know if you've calculated up your current standings, but I am sitting at 42-22 on the season.
Yeah, you jumped ahead of me a few this week. I got the Jacksonville game, but then Chicago blew that lead. New Orleans had a meltdown. What was the other one I picked? Pittsburgh had a meltdown.
Yep.
So not the best one for me. And then obviously the Giants were the Giants. So I'm at 39-25, so 3 games behind. But hey, we still
Okay.
got a pretty long season to go. So
All right. Well, starting us off Thursday night over on Amazon Prime, we get a real stinker of a matchup because it's Thursday night football, and that's what we all deserve on Thursday nights, apparently. We have the 0-4 Chicago Bears making their way over to Landover, Maryland, FedEx Field, home of the Washington Commanders. At home, Washington 6-point favorites. I think that's fair, especially how they performed against an undefeated Eagles team, pretty much going down to the wire with Philly. This Commanders team is a little bit risky, man. They're kind of fun. Sam Howell hasn't been as bad as I expected. I don't think he's, lit up the world or anything, but he's been solid. He's been perfectly fine. That's how I'll phrase it. And listen, if we know anything about the Bears defense, he's going to look like a god against them. So give me Washington in this one on Thursday night. Who you got, man?
So part of me really wanted
Don't do
to do something silly,
Don't do it.
but then I was reading an article that said because the Bears have a long week this week, they have a 10-day rest. If Matt Eberflus loses this game, then this might be the perfect time to fire him, because this is
It would be.
this is one of the last, I think, winnable games for the Chicago Bears. Like, 'cause
Probably.
Washington is frisky, but might not, they did have that one blowout with the Bills, and Sam Howell does make some mistakes and stuff
Frisky,
like that.
frisky but beatable. Yeah.
So part of me was like, I need to contradict you on some things. This might be a game I was thinking about, but now I'm just rooting for Matt Eberflus to get fired.
Yeah.
So give me the commies as well.
Yeah.
I think they could make it close, but Matt Eberflus will make some dumb decision. Ron Rivera has the wisdom of Eric Bieniemy now, so that seems to be helping that situation over there as well. So yeah, that's again, this past Thursday night was fun for like a quarter. Like the third quarter was fun.
The second half was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good time.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Nice.
Listen, I would like to get to where we have good Thursday night matchups. Like, give us some good football in prime time. That's all I'm asking for.
I have a feeling we're going to agree on a lot of games this week.
Probably. Well, let's head over to Sunday and starting us off at 9:30 a.m. again over in London. The Jags just stayed in town, but now they are technically the away team, even though we all know they're technically the home team in London. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Buffalo Bills at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on the road. Buffalo are 5.5-point favorites. Hey, listen, doesn't matter what continent they're on. Vegas still thinks they're a good team because they are. And that's why I'm taking those Buffalo Bills. The Jags, despite their win last week against the Falcons, I don't think they've figured everything out, and they're facing a very, very good, potentially the best team in the AFC in this Buffalo Bills team. So give me Josh Allen and the boys to get it done. Who you got, man?
So the Jacksonville Jaguars, not only, is England their home, they are now also undefeated in Andy's room. Picked up that important win. Did you watch any of that
It's a
coverage?
little bit of a rough broadcast.
It's one of those where it was kind of fun to watch at times, but also as because I was watching it with my wife, and we were having fun because she doesn't know as much about football, so it's just like a fun thing to watch. And then as a football fan, it's like just how the ball would kind of glitch out on passes and stuff. It's like, okay, did he score or did he not score?
Yeah.
Now, some of the running plays were awesome. Like watching Bijan juke players like he does in real life in the animated toy version is just as cool. It's just as cool to watch that way.
Here's what I would have preferred, because all of the graphics I loved, and all of like the cut scenes with the Toy Story toys and all that, I loved all of that. But I think the actual like real-time animated football game was odd and looked weird. I would have rather have seen like the actual gameplay with the Toy Story style graphics, to where it is graphically going to be more appealing to kids, Toy Story fans, whatever. But you still have the actual game there versus like the real-time animated game.
I think the technology will get better.
Probably.
I think if they do it more, I think it'll get better and more enjoyable. I do think it was kind of shady for them to be like, if you pay for, because Disney owns both Disney Plus and ESPN Plus.
Right.
And so it's like, you can only watch the actual broadcast if you have this other subscription service that we also own.
Yeah.
Because that game, I believe, was only I couldn't even get the actual broadcast on YouTube TV.
Yeah. It was an ESPN. Well, it was a ESPN Plus / Disney Plus exclusive. So
But Disney Plus only had the Toy Story version of it.
Right. Which I think the idea behind that is that Disney just wants you to get the bundle for Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu, which fine,
you ain't
whatever.
getting me that easy, Disney.
Yeah.
Because nobody who pays for any kind of cable service is also going to pay for ESPN Plus, because for the most part, that service comes with all the sports stuff. Like YouTube TV,
Somewhat.
YouTube TV, I think it's only an add-on of like $10 a month, but I get Red Zone and NFL Network for with my cable thing from YouTube TV. People who pay for like Spectrum cable and stuff aren't going to pay an extra. Why would they?
Well, here's the kicker with ESPN Plus, and here's why I've paid for it for over a year now, is that if you are a hockey fan, they have every out-of-area hockey game on ESPN Plus, every single one. And since I am a Dallas Stars fan that lives on the East Coast, it's perfect for me. I get to watch every single Dallas Stars game for $10 a month. You cannot beat that.
All right.
It's a fantastic deal.
But see, okay, I see your logic here.
Yeah.
The only issue.
If you're not a hockey fan, it's not worth it.
This wasn't a hockey game, Devin.
Yeah. Well, listen. That's what I'm saying is that's why I pay for ESPN Plus. But if you're not a hockey fan, I get it. It's not worth it.
I think in the future they should just they should do it how Nickelodeon does it. Is they should simulcast it, like you have the option to watch either.
Yeah.
But because
Well,
I like the Nickelodeon broadcast. Whenever it's on Wild Card Weekend, I usually do that instead. I'm not going to watch it instead of the actual Super Bowl broadcast.
You had that on ESPN Plus. So on ESPN Plus, you could either watch the regular game or you could watch the Toy Story version.
Right, but it wasn't backwards. If you only have Disney Plus, you could only watch the Toy Story version.
Which that makes zero sense to me, but whatever. Anyways, we have a game this week in London.
Yep, they're out of Andy's room into London. I don't know if you remember the last time these two teams met.
I don't.
The Jags won 6-9. Nice.
Oh, weird.
You know why they won?
Oh, the good Josh Allen.
They have the superior Josh Allen, who was able to just completely dismantle. Josh Allen can't play against somebody with his own name. Defensive superior Josh Allen got, I think, a a sack, a fumble, and a interception. He got all
Yeah,
three.
he was one of our best of the booth last year. I remember that.
Yeah. So we're not going to disagree on a lot this week, I don't think.
Are we disagreeing on this one?
I think we are going to disagree on this
Oh,
one.
God.
I think the Jags, between that, they've been in London all week. They haven't had to worry about jet lag. They're used to that there. I'm going to take the Jags. Even though
Well.
they're away, they're at home. This is their home, and I want them to win.
Give me an easy win this week. I'll take it. Let's head back to the States. We're talking Detroit, Michigan, Ford Field. We have the Carolina Panthers 0-4. I can't even say they're clawing the way up there because I think those claws are non-existent on these big cats. But they're heading into Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions at home. The Lions are 9.5-point favorites. That's fair. We got a big cat beatdown coming on Sunday, and I'm going with the Lions. Who you got, man?
Yeah, this isn't one we're disagreeing on. I think the Panthers have shown some flashes. 2 weeks ago with Andy Dalton and this week with Bryce Young. Like, they were in that game with the Vikings till the end, but I think the Detroit Lions are just way better. They're the best. They're the best team on the line of scrimmage right now. Their offensive line and defensive line are both insane. I think they're one of the best, if not the best, team against the run also. So they're going to force this game to be on Bryce Young,
Listen,
and I just don't think it's going to happen.
I could make an argument that the Detroit Lions are the third best team in the NFC.
No, yeah. Eagles,
I think-
49ers.
I think most people will say it's the Dallas Cowboys. I trust this offense in Detroit a hell of a lot more than I trust Dallas's. Now, Dallas's defense is definitely better, but I don't think Detroit's defense is bad. They're at the very least in the top half of the league, and I would say
They're-
probably borderline top 10, where the
Yeah.
offense is probably top 5.
I mean, right now it seems like they have the most impactful defensive rookies in the league with
Yep,
forgetting his name.
Brian Branch.
Brian
the
Branch
cornerback.
and Jack Campbell have both been
Yep.
super good on that team.
Which, Brian Branch did go out with injury in that Thursday night game. He came back
came
and then
back,
left
yeah.
again. So we'll see how much that injury impacts this game. But I still think they're going to have a pretty
Yeah.
easy time against
This game, I don't
against
think
the
it'll
Panthers.
impact too much. We'll see if
Yeah.
he's healthy for later in the year. But
I
yeah,
agree.
give me the Lions.
I agree. Well, let's head over to ATL, where we have the frisky and fun 2-2 Houston Texans coming in to face the 2-2 Atlanta Falcons. Listen, Falcons fans are starting to get a little upset with Desmond Ridder. I think a lot of them want to potentially see what they have in Taylor Heineke or make a trade for a certain quarterback out of Minnesota. Who knows if any of that's going to happen. But at home on Sunday, Atlanta are 2-point favorites. And I got to say, I think this is one the Texans might sneak out. I'm rolling with Houston in this one. I think Houston is just playing great football all around right now. Don't get me wrong, I think the Falcons are still a good team, but they've got some stuff to figure out, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And while this is a team that you could do that against because Houston's defense is not necessarily great, I think Houston's offense, they've got something clicking, man. And I'm excited for their future, and I'm picking them to get it done in Atlanta on Sunday against the Falcons. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm with you on the Texans. There are also rumors, and I think Blake talked about it earlier, of people wanting Justin Fields to go to Atlanta.
Blech.
I don't think it would be as good as Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta. But I think it could be. I mean, they're more able to establish a run game, so that could help him develop as a passer. But
Could.
um,
And Arthur Smith, that could be a fun weapon for Arthur Smith to use in his offense.
but as it currently stands, I mean, putting that many points up against the Steelers, like it just shows that C.J. Stroud can. I mean, literally this year, C.J. Stroud can throw 300 yards against anybody, and that's something that Atlanta cannot do. So I'm going to go with the Texans, and their Texans defense isn't the best, but I think all they have to do is slow down the run enough to put the game on Desmond Ridder, and I think they can. I think they can do that if they can just hold Bijan to like 100 yards.
Yeah, I mean, this what was so impressive to me about that performance against Pittsburgh is that Pittsburgh has one of the top 3 defensive players in the league in TJ Watt. And again, like I said, Houston was using their 3rd string left tackle, and for across the offensive line, all of their presumed starters going into the season on the offensive line were injured. So they were on at least 2nd stringers across the whole offensive line. And CJ Stroud wasn't sacked once. He wasn't sacked once. That's impressive going against TJ Watt. And so I just think they've got a good thing going, man. I think they've got a really good thing going there.
I'm with you on the Texans. We'll see if they'll be able to keep it up as the year goes on to make the playoffs, but
Yeah.
I definitely got them this week.
Well, let's keep it in the AFC South and go out to Indianapolis for a AFC South rivalry game. We have the 2-2 Tennessee Titans heading in to Indy to take on the 2-2 Indianapolis Colts. On the road, weirdly, Tennessee is favored in this one, 2-point favorites. I don't know how I feel about that. It's not a big spread, so I'm not gonna like complain about it because I think this will be a very close game, or could be a very close game. I think these two teams are kind of in a similar spot. Some question marks on the offense. Somehow the defense is keeping them in games. I don't know who to pick in this one, if I'm being honest. I think
You want me to pick first?
I think I'm gonna go Colts because I do like the Anthony Richardson story. I know he's dealt with some injuries this year already, and hopefully he can stay on the field. But I'm going Colts over Titans. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Indy as well. If you look at, Tennessee beat the Chargers due to poor coaching and poor defensive play, and then they beat a very hurt Cincinnati team with no offensive line. Like, I think Tennessee's record, like Indy's record, I think is correct for them. I think Tennessee's record is not. I think Shane Steichen is a great coach for them so far. I think Matt Vrabel is still a little bit old school and has an older team. So I just think things are going to roll Indy's way for this one. I think Anthony Richardson is going to be able to dance around and do what he needs to do. He's had a rushing touchdown in all 3 of his starts so far, which is not something like, I think I was reading that like almost, I think one other quarterback has done. Like Cam Newton didn't do it. Michael Vick didn't do it. Like all these other great rushing quarterbacks that you think of, like he's the only one that's done it.
Well, if you want a fun little weird stat for this game, the Colts sit at 2-2, but both of those losses were at home, and they are the home team this week. So maybe they can get their first home win.
That'd be nice.
Let's head down to Miami, where we have the hapless New York Giants sitting at 1-3, flying down the East Coast to take on the 3-1 Miami Dolphins at home. The Dolphins are 11-point favorites. I think they're gonna be fired up after that loss to the Bills. I think they're going to want to make a statement, and this is the team to do it against. I've got the Dolphins winning big over the Giants. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I am also going to go with the Dolphins. This is going to be a good bounce back game for them. The Giants just, even with Saquon back, like there's not going to be any room for him to run, which is unfortunate because he's on my fantasy team. But yeah, I'm going to go with Miami with you. There's not a ton to talk about there. Miami is better than the Giants in literally every single category.
Yep.
Especially
Yep.
even Devon Achane. Apparently, he said that everybody was saying his name wrong. It's Achane, not Achane.
Yeah.
Seemingly taking over the workload and seems like a fantastic running back.
Yep.
So yeah, give me Miami.
Well, let's stay in the AFC East and head up to Foxborough, where we have the New Orleans Saints coming into town to take on the New England Patriots at home. New England, just a 1-point favorite. Both of these teams have so many question marks floating around them. I don't think we really know what either team is yet. We did get some news on the Patriots side of things. Their rookie corner, Christian Gonzalez, is out for the season. They went ahead and made a trade with the Chargers for J.C. Jackson. He's back on the East Coast in a Patriots uniform. We'll see how that changes their defense. Also, Matt Judon is expected to be out for the season, which is a big loss on that defensive line for them. I'm rolling with the Saints in this one. I don't feel good about it. I don't like it, but I don't want to pick either of these teams. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm also going with the Saints. I know Bill Belichick is a great defensive-minded head coach, but if there's a week for the Saints offense to figure something out,
Yeah, it's
it's
this one.
against a very hurt Patriots defense. Because I don't know what's happening, man. Like, I don't know if it's just Dennis Allen isn't a good coach. I don't know if Derek Carr is maybe worse than a lot of people thought he was.
Well, he's got the injury that he's dealing with now.
That's true too.
So
But yeah, I'm gonna take the Saints as well in this one. I'm curious if Mac Jones is still gonna be starting or if they're gonna get the Zappy Attacky in there.
we'll see. We'll see. We've got a AFC North divisional matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers at Acrisure Stadium, which just sounds weird and bad and dirty to say in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We all know what it's really called. It's Heinz Field.
No, it's not.
But on the road, Baltimore, 4-point favorites. I think that's fair. I think Baltimore's the better team. That's why I'm rolling with the Ravens. Also, Kenny Pickett is injured. Don't know if he'll be playing, but it might be time for a quarterback change there anyway. So maybe we get the Trubisky show. I don't think that's going to be much better. We'll see. Give me the Ravens, though. Who you got, man?
I do love Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, I know you weirdly do.
Hey, he's the original MVP. Okay.
Listen, you weirdly like Mitch Trubisky. I weirdly like Kenny Pickett. I'm starting not to, but yeah, it is what it is.
I'm still gonna go with the Ravens though. The Steelers, like as good as their defense is, I think the Ravens are still a little bit too explosive, especially if
Definitely.
if Houston can do that to them, the Ravens can do that to them.
100%. Yeah.
So yeah, give me the Ravens. One of the other more dominant. They had the one weird loss to the Colts, but other than that, they've been pretty dominant. So
Let's fly our way out to LA, where we have the Philadelphia Eagles flying high at 4-0, heading into SoFi Stadium to take on the Los Angeles Rams. A surprising 2-2 Los Angeles Rams. On the road, Philly, 4.5-point favorites. I think that's fair. I'm rolling with the Eagles. I like them more. I just think they're a much better team. I think they might have gotten exposed a little bit by the Commanders, who put up a surprising fight against them. But this Eagles team is still one of the best teams in the NFC. You could make an argument the best team in the NFC, and I'm rolling with them. Who you got, man?
I like what you did there, flying out to LA for the Eagles. Ha ha ha.
I have good transitions sometimes.
No, I'm gonna again. We said we weren't gonna disagree on a lot this week, and that seems to be the case. I'm also going with the Eagles. I do think it is possible for the Rams to sneak it out here, especially with the Eagles almost, only they were up 16-0 against the Patriots and then almost let them come back. They almost let the Vikings come back. They almost lost to the Commanders in overtime. They're kind of just sneaking away some one possession wins like the Vikings did last year, and we saw how that went in the playoffs for the Vikings. So hit or miss there, but for right now, I'm gonna keep believing in this Eagles team and give them the win.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Let's go out to the desert where we have the Cincinnati Bengals, the hapless Cincinnati Bengals, heading into Arizona to take on the Arizona Cardinals. On the road, Cincy are 3-point favorites. Listen, something is going on in Cincinnati. This is not the same Bengals team. I don't know what is happening. I don't know if it's a lot of mental issues for Joe Burrow. We all know that the injury is there. It's nagging him a bit. But he's kind of dealt with injuries for most of his career. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if Zach Taylor is the right coach there to really get that team back on track. I hope he is, because I like this team. I think the Bengals have a lot of things to like there. But pull out the maracas, because I didn't think I would do this year. But I'm getting spicy with it and taking Josh Dobbs and the Arizona Cardinals to get the upset. Who you got, man?
You better keep those maracas out.
Oh, man.
At this point, I never really thought Zach Taylor was a great coach. I just kind of thought he was the coach that was there when they got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and that they've kind of been riding on their talent for the last few years. And Joe Burrow not being at 100%, like, I get he's dealt with injuries before, but I mean, this one seems to really be, I don't know if it's his mobility. Yeah. I don't know if the rebuilt offensive line isn't as strong as they thought they were. I think I had a warning about Orlando Brown Jr. at the start of the year, saying that a lot of the sacks to Mahomes and a lot of the pressures came from his side.
You did.
So there might be less talent there than they thought there was.
Yeah.
But man, and I mean, this Cardinals team, they're 1-3, but they've been in every game they've played. The Bengals have not really been close in any game except the one that they won.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I'm going to take Josh Dobbs and the Cardinals. They still have a heck of a good running back there with James Conner. And their weapons. What was the guy's name? Was it something Williams, that receiver on the Cardinals this week that had a fantastic game? What is his name?
That does sound right. I don't know what his name was.
Williams. When did they play? Did they play at 4:00 last week?
I don't know when they played, man.
Michael Wilson is who it was. He had a very generic name. Yeah.
There you go.
Michael Wilson, who I believe is a rookie, was starting to get into the mix with 7 catches for 76 yards last week. So, if you need a reliable receiver in your fantasy league, maybe it's time to pick up a sleeper like Michael Wilson.
I mean, this is a team that arguably could be 3-1 right now, because they could have beaten the Commanders in week 1. They lost by 4 points. They should have beaten the Giants in week 2 and let them come back to get the win. They lost by 3 points. They righted the ship against the Cowboys. Weirdly, that's not a team to right the ship against, but they did it. Got the win. Then obviously got a little, manhandled by the Niners, which most teams do.
Yeah, I mean, all teams are going to get manhandled by the Niners. So,
but 3-1 is not out of the question for this team. They could easily be sitting there. They're not. They're sitting at 1-3, and that happens in the NFL. But I think this might be a better team than we all gave them credit for, and Josh Dobbs has been playing very well for them. He hasn't been lighting it up, but he's been a very good, talented game manager of sorts for them. So I like what they're doing, man. I just think the Bengals are in a bad spot, and this is another winnable game for them. If they lose by 3 or 4 points or even 7 points, a one-possession game, I won't be surprised by that. I think that the Cardinals while they're staying in games, they've also found ways to lose games, going back to week 1 and week 2. But if they get completely upended by Cincinnati, that will be surprising to me.
Yeah. Fun fact: Joshua Dobbs also has not thrown an interception this year so far. And just I don't know where he came from. I don't know what was he doing in the offseason? He was like a physicist for NASA or something?
I don't know. Something
I'm
like
wondering
that,
if he's
probably.
using the mathematics of his physics degree to like get the angles to be a better quarterback. You know, like this
What a
guy's running at
nerd.
me at this angle, at this speed. If I throw the ball just like this or run at just this way, and avoid him.
Maybe.
This is why football players go to college. That's all I'm saying.
Heading out to Denver, we have the 1-3 New York Jets heading into town to take on the 1-3 Denver Broncos. Congratulations, Denver. You got a win. It might be your only win of the season because it was barely a win against maybe the worst team in the league. But guess what? You're favored at home. 1.5-point favorites for this team. I don't like that. I don't think that's deserving at all. The Broncos are a mess. They're garbage. The Jets at least have a great defense and some semblance of an offense. Maybe Zach Wilson finally figured everything out against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that will transfer over. I don't think that happens, but it might. I'm taking the Jets in this one, which feels weird to say, but I'm taking New York in the Wilson Bowl. Who you got, man?
I've never once thought about picking the Broncos in this game. Not a single time.
I don't
Have I thought about
want to
picking the
pick
Broncos
either
in this
one
game?
of them.
But I mean, the Jets kept up with the
Yes.
Chiefs.
Yes.
And man, I want to talk about it, but it's going to drain so much of me. But like, I don't want to say it came down to one holding call because it was a holding call.
Listen, that game was also in JetLife Stadium. It wasn't at Arrowhead. I think if it was at Arrowhead, the Jets get completely dismantled.
I think also Aaron Rodgers being there, I think does a lot because I mean their only other
Possibly.
win was when Zach Wilson came in after and like
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers was able to come back on the sideline and kind of coach him a little bit. Like I think the Aaron Rodgers Zach Wilson relationship helps him a lot.
Also at JetLife Stadium. Just
Yeah.
saying.
So I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be at this game because it's in Denver. But I mean, maybe again, this performance against the Chiefs, he literally only had the one fumble at the very end that gave the Chiefs the drive to run out the clock. And I think if there's a team again to bounce back against and to maybe gain some confidence, this is a confidence episode. Just name the episode something confidence. I think
Okay.
it's against this Broncos team who just released their best, if not second best, defensive player. For those
Yeah.
who don't know, Randy Gregory asked for a release and he got it. He's a free agent now. Who knows where he's going to go? We'll find out probably next week.
Getting out while he can.
Yeah. I mean, the Broncos at this point are going to go through an entire rebuild with Sean Payton, but they're still going to have to keep Russ for at least another year. So, with
I mean, yeah. I
um,
mean, they're tied to him for 5 years, 5 more years after this year. And if he's not the quarterback, he's going to be counting against their cap and dead cap space, which it's just an unfortunate. But also, again, he has not been the problem this year. Russell Wilson has played adequately this year.
yeah, I don't even know.
Problem is the defense makes Justin Fields look like a competent quarterback and also gets a 70 burger dropped on them by the Dolphins. That's the problem. The defense is garbage.
Yeah, I'm taking the Jets with you.
Also taking the Jets.
I think Zach Wilson can have a good game. If anything, Breece Hall is gonna just run all over this defense.
I don't know how I feel about this, that even our upsets we're both picking the same team. I don't know
That's-
how I feel about
That's
that.
how I knew. I was looking at the games, and I'm like, he's a huge believer in the Texans. I know he's not going to disagree with me there. I was like, what are the other games? I thought maybe you could pick the Patriots, but that was the only other game that I thought maybe we would disagree on. Everything else, I was like, he's not picking the Broncos. He's
Well,
the Bengals. I don't think anyone should pick the Bengals at this point until they can
Listen.
actually show they have the talent that they did last year.
there's 3 games left. There's still time. So let's make our way up to Minneapolis, where we have those aforementioned Kansas City Chiefs sneaking out a win over the Jets, heading into town to take on the 1-3 Minnesota Vikings. On the road, Kansas City 4-point favorites, 100% fair. They're the better team. This Viking squad is in a bit of a mess. I still have so many questions. I think the offense is playing fine when they hold on to the ball and they don't have turnovers. The defense is not great. I think Patrick Mahomes might have a heyday against this Vikings defense that is essentially non-existent, at least in the secondary. So give me KC over Minnesota. Who you got, man? I
Yeah,
already know who you got. I don't need to ask you.
obviously, I'm with you. Not because I think the refs are gonna, rig the game for the Chiefs to win, because that's definitely not what happened. Even though that's what everybody says. If I tell you, I don't want to get too much into this because I know we're running out of time.
Oh,
But
gosh.
How my villain origin story almost started this week, when I essentially got to the point to where everybody was saying, "Oh, they rigged the game because Taylor Swift was there," that it was a BS holding call, all that stuff. Which, like, his hands are around his neck, like that's a holding call. I don't care.
Right.
I don't care. I don't care. And the fact that it, like, for the entire Monday talking about football, I talked about it like it was professional wrestling. I was like, yeah, man, I hope they put the Giants over. I think this is a match where they could get their chance to shine, like stuff like that.
Good
Like
Lord.
this was my origin story of just screw it. Nothing I say to you guys matters. It doesn't matter that the safety wasn't a safety according to Gene Steratore because the face mask started before they got to the end zone. It doesn't matter that the horse collar tackle that got called on the Chiefs wasn't a horse collar tackle because he didn't get in the shoulder pads. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is you slow down the camera to show one missed holding call, which are super rare. The refs never miss holding calls. That doesn't happen in football. And call that holding call where his hands are literally around his neck, where he threw the flag late because if he threw it any earlier, he would have hit a player with it. So that's my 2 cents on that. Go something I can't say on the show to yourselves and give me the Chiefs.
Spoken like a true Chiefs fan. Before you have an aneurysm, let's head out to Santa Clara where we have Sunday night football. The 3-1 Dallas Cowboys heading in to town to take on the San Francisco 49ers. 4-0, baby. Looking good. 4-point favorites at home for this Niners squad. I really like this team. I think they've got a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. And this should be one of the better games of the year, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Don't be a dud. Please don't be a dud, because this, on paper, should be a showdown. I'm taking San Francisco in this one. I think they're just better than like 30 teams in the NFL. So give me San Fran. Who you got, man?
Yep, another one we're going to agree on. I'm never really a
No
big believer
surprise
in the
there.
Cowboys ever.
Yeah, which is why I said no surprise.
The Cowboys are a good team, but also have really struggled against the 49ers anytime they've played in the last 5 years.
I mean, that sounds like most teams.
Yeah. Give me the 49ers. The Cowboys, again, hopefully prime time, they could make it fun, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners just absolutely shut down the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. It wouldn't be surprising to see Dak have one of his really bad games, which
Well,
which he is known to have from time to time.
I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago. He can't play from behind. So if the 49ers can get the start that
True.
they've gotten to every game this season, then I just don't think the Cowboys are going to be able to catch him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Run CMC right now is looking like Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, he's just a monster for that team.
Yeah.
And like Brock Purdy, great quarterback. Another quarterback that hasn't thrown a pick yet. Over 1,000 yards, only the 5 touchdowns, but no picks. So
McCaffrey's already almost halfway to 1,000 rushing yards for the season. He's at 459.
Yep. Just having a great season out there.
Yeah.
Let's go to Monday Night Football, where we have Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers heading into Vegas to take on the Las Vegas Raiders.
The Devontae Adams revenge
And some other
game,
guys.
even though Devontae asked for the trade, so maybe it's actually a Packers revenge game. I don't know how that works.
I don't know how it works either. On the road, Green Bay are 1-point favorites. Listen,
Why are you sighing over there?
I'm picking the Packers in this game.
Why are you upset about this?
I'm sighing because I don't think the Packers deserve to be favorites in most of their games this year, just based off of what I've seen through 4 games. I like this team. I like where they're headed, but on the road favorites, even though it's just 1 point, I don't know if they deserve it, especially after how they looked against the Lions. The Raiders are a much different team. The Raiders are a mess. The Raiders should fire their head coach yesterday, but they haven't for whatever reason, and he's still there. I like this Packers team more. Give me Green Bay, but I gotta say I'm a little nervous, man, just because I don't have a ton of confidence in this team currently. Who you got?
I understand not having confidence in the Packers. You know who I have even less confidence in? The Las Vegas Raiders.
Fair.
Who got their one win by 1 point over one of the bottom 3 teams of the league in the Denver Broncos. This is an easy pick for me. I don't know why he struggled with it. Give me the Green Bay Packers. I understand that Jordan Love, he's a late bloomer. Just give him the second half. The Raiders are going to give up 80 points in the second half to this team. That's an exaggeration. But if there's any kind of lead, Jordan Love will catch up in the second half.
If we got second half Jordan Love for all 4 quarters every game, I mean, might be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Might be. So if we can get that, let's go. But the problem is we ain't been getting that, and we do get bad Jordan Love for at least a half, and I don't like it. We got bad Jordan Love in the second half against the Atlanta Falcons. First half was great. So it's a half and half game that we're getting from him, and I don't like it. Just be consistent, man. Just be good all 4 quarters. Not that hard. Just be good. Just be good.
Really, really quick.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention this because I forgot it started this week. This week starts bye week, so if you did not hear teams, it is because they are on bye.
Yeah,
And
I
those
was gonna get to
are
that.
the Cleveland Browns, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You will not see them on TV this week because they, I'm assuming Deshaun Watson asked for an early bye because he can't play more than 4 games without getting a massage. So, make sure you bleep out that I actually said his name.
Good Lord. Yeah, just make sure to adjust your fantasy lineups as needed. Remember the buys. But I think that wraps everything up. Should be a good week of football, I think. Got some handful of good games, handful of crap fests. But did we agree on every game except for one?
Yep.
Well, there you go. Just go to
I think
Vegas
it's
and
just
make your
that-
picks.
It's just this week. We'll disagree on more stuff, but man, I feel like there are no close games this week, or like
I
games.
think
I think there are games that'll be close that are just like teams I don't want to root for. Like I don't want to root for the Titans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
Like
I'm with you. But Again, as always, we appreciate you tuning in and listening to us in whatever capacity you are doing so. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. That way you're notified every single time we go live every week. This week was a day off, but we had some stuff going on. We're allowed to do that.
Don't at me.
If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Pandora, however you're listening to us, hey, thank you. We appreciate it. Give us a rating and a review if you choose, if you want. It's all on you. Follow us on our socials if you would like, at Booth Review Pod for most things, at Booth Review Sports for Instagram. Maybe we'll get some content on there eventually. Probably, possibly.
Maybe
Who
next
knows?
year.
Yeah, there's always next year. Hop into the Discord. That's where all the fun stuff is going down on a daily basis. We do weirdly keep up with that more than anything else. So hop in there, talk some sports with us, and I believe that's that.